I'm going to talk about something that many of you, certainly Lorenzo has heard me talk about many times, but I want to actually talk about it more because it is I have there is these when sometimes there are some people that go to Las Vegas and they'll go to the casino and they'll say, I want to bet everything on number 27 or whatever the hell they do. This is my number 27 bet. And the bet that I've made is to singularly focus on converting just one type of shopper, which I call the healthy skeptic. And I want to actually talk to you today. I'm going to cover this point over and over again in future episodes as well. Today, I want to actually talk about the mechanism and the philosophical mechanism. I'm not going to show an example. If you guys want an example and if it's not clear, drop us a comment and I'll certainly have a one-to-one conversation with you about this as well. But I want to talk about the philosophical mechanism for how do we talk to this group which we call healthy skeptics. So first of all, let's understand how we are defining healthy skeptics. So if you take your conversion rates and you place your conversions in concentric circles, or you take your visitors and place them in concentric circles, right in the center are the people that are pulling out their credit cards and making a purchase. So this is the black hole. Right outside of this is a group of people that were motivated to come close enough to buying. They, in fact, even kind of maybe even touch the border of completing a purchase, but something is holding them back. And so this group we call healthy skeptics. And in terms of like the size of your audience, they represent 16% of your overall audience. So it's not 100% of your audience, but it's 16%. It's 4 times as many so if your conversion rate is 4%, healthy skeptics are 4 times as many. So it's a much bigger group, but it's not 100%. So that's the definition of what we define the healthy skeptic as. And in terms of the qualities that they have, they are the type of people that value expertise. So they really look up to people that know a lot about the problem. It's like when I think a best example is to think about the relationship we have with doctors. I expect my doctor to really, like, if I have a little pain in my elbow, I want the doctor to know everything there is to know about elbow pain. So that expertise really gives me confidence. They recognize they have a problem. So, like, if the patient doesn't even recognize that he has elbow pain, then there's nothing that the doctor can do. So you want them to recognize that they are willing to pay to solve their problem. This is an important thing as well. I need to be willing to pay the doctor for his fees so he can give me my advice. And then the final criteria is that they need more convincing. Because if they didn't need more convincing, they would have already bought from us, right? So those are the 4 defining characteristics of healthy skeptics. But what I want to talk about now is forget about the actual design and all of that stuff. I want to just if I can get one idea across, I think that is worth a lot to me. And that idea is that from a marketing strategy perspective, if 4% of people that are coming to your product page are making a purchase, I have a couple of goals. My primary goal is not to screw up or disturb the conversion rates that are taking place already. So the last thing I want to do is to mix things up in a way where the 4% of people that were buying now actually don't even buy. So now that's gone down even more. So I don't want to disturb that. That's number one. Number two is I want to create a subtle, and this keyword, because I don't want to disturb the conversions that are taking place already, I want to create a subtle mechanism to tease out, to pull away the people that need more convincing. This is a key thing. I don't want to draw the attention of everyone who's on the product page. I don't need to draw the attention of people that would not going to buy anyway. I want to make sure that the trap that I'm not using the right term, but the mechanisms that I'm placing on the product page are designed primarily to tease out people that need more convincing, which is the healthy skeptics. And so the balance here is that it has to be subtle enough where most people who will ignore it and won't be disturbed by it, but it's visible enough should someone be in a situation where they're like, this is really interesting and compelling, but I need more convincing. So think about it from that perspective. Now, how you design it, and again, drop us a comment. And if you're stuck somewhere about the design and need inspiration for design, or if you give me your product page, I can make a very quick video and explain to you like the mechanism that I would use to target these healthy skeptics. But for now, I just want you to think about this idea of I don't want to disturb the people that are buying. I want to create a path for people that need more convincing. That's it. Those are the two singular things we're doing. Now, the third and the final piece, which is the most important piece, is that what do I tell these people once they raise their hand up? Right? In my case, raising a hand up is equal to clicking a button or clicking a link. So once they've clicked a link or clicked on a button, they've raised their hand up and said, I identify as someone who needs more convincing. Now I have to figure out what the heck do I want to tell these people? And what we then do is we do rigorous experimentation. So we show a pop-up. You don't have to show a pop-up. You can show any mechanism that you want. It doesn't matter. But you want to not take them away. The thing though is that I don't want to take them away from the product page. I don't want to break their attention. I want to bring that content to them. And now what you're going to have to figure out is what kind of message do I need to show to these people to increase the likelihood that their skepticism is being addressed. And there are many things you can do. You can start off by talking about your origin story. That's actually a very useful device of pulling people in, where human beings are designed to be sucked into storytelling. Storytelling is a very powerful technique because our brains are painting a picture, and it's it's deeply embedding in our brain. And through that storytelling, your origin story, you can actually start empathizing with them, because your whatever product that you're solving, it's something that means something to you, and it also means something to the person who's buying this product. So your origin story oftentimes is a very authentic way for the two people to connect and relate to each other. And so that's what the origin story does. So that's one technique. The other thing is you can try demonstrating expertise, because again, going back to that doctor analogy, like how do I meet someone on the bus, and I have elbow pain, and I meet this guy. He's wearing a lab coat, so he's a doctor. I mean, he's unless he was faking it, he's actually a doctor. And we're having a conversation. He's like, "Oh my God, you must come to my clinic, and you must see me formally because I'd love to kind of treat this." My first question is, what qualification do you have for this? And I have to hear a few things that convince me that this guy knows what he's talking about. Because if I don't hear those few things, there's a 0% likelihood that I will make an appointment with his office and visit him. Once I visit him, there's a very high likelihood that I'll continue listening to him, because I'm kind of trapped in a way. But in the bus, I have an exit, which is I just have to listen to him and not even pay attention. So that demonstration of expertise is a very important technique. Then you can use user stories. You can talk about different ways in which he could have given me stories about some patients and how their lives got transformed based on this. And I'm like, oh my God, I wanted to go sailing. That's right. This bloody shoulder, this elbow pain is going to prevent me. So there are lots of techniques, and you can mix and match all of these. My point is that once you've created the beauty of the system is, think about what we've done. Number one is we didn't disturb conversions that were taking place. Number two is we've invented a mechanism, any mechanism, to draw out people that need more convincing. And number three is now we have a few flavors of things that we can show them as experiments, A, B, C, D test, where we can see what are people responding to. And so we've now created this wonderful lab on this end, right? In step three, where now I know what their problem is, which is that they are not convinced. They're not convinced about my credentials. They're not convinced that this product is going to solve their problem. They're not convinced that this is a good value for money. And I can now systematically start experimenting with just that group. This is the key thing. It's not me experimenting with all of my audience. Yeah. It's me specifically experimenting with people that are saying, I don't buy your story. And I can now figure out why they don't buy my story, what aspects of my story they're not buying. And to me, there is no better cheat code in marketing than to specifically understand why people are resisting buying from you. When Lorenzo talks about research, that's what he's doing. So
actually, this is a good point. Do you have any advice, like quick advice for people to find out quickly why somebody would be healthy, skeptical about the product or the product page? Like how like, do you just like, okay, here's a different pitch selling angle, and that's how you discover it? Or do you have like a kind of like a quick technique that you use in order to figure that out?
Well, I mean, so one technique could be that at the, when you show the pop-up content, let's say you talk about the origin story and you talk about some use cases, maybe after each of those segments, you can actually have a link with a feedback beacon that says, did this address your question? Is this true for you? Does this resonate with you or something? So you can collect you know, some kind of qualifying data. But to me, like, I think, I'm more artistic when it comes to testing. So my whole philosophy for testing is that ask yourself as a CEO, ask yourself as a business owner, what could be the reasons why, and there could be a whole variety of reasons. And so I would just write it out and I would say, okay, I tell this to my clients all the time. Think of it this way. Imagine, this is the perfect analogy. Imagine you are at a trade show. It's a big industry trade show and you are selling your products, and you have people walking into your booth, and some people say, oh my god, this is amazing, give me your information, I'm going to buy. There are other people that are just going to linger there. They're not leaving, right? They're lingering there and they're saying, do you have a couple of minutes? I have some questions for you. My question to you, and the question that they ask you is like, I don't know if this is going to solve my problem. What would you say to them in person? If the answer is, I don't know what to say, then fucking shut down your business. But I'm very, very confident that you have so many things to say to them. All I'm trying to say is that in a trade show, there's no statistical A/B testing going on. You're just kind of saying what you think. Here we have a lab, and in that lab we can experiment. So don't worry too much about, like, I would say just write whatever you think. And Lorenzo, again, please tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not sure if I do struggle with explaining this concept with clarity, but my instinct is
Do
just
you want to
write
give
out.
do you want to give an example without naming the brand? One example of thing that maybe like some users were skeptical about for the product of one of your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have, I mean, I can certainly, I mean, like, people are skeptical about value for money for sure. People are skeptical about, is this product going to work? And
Yeah.
also people are skeptical about, like, the biggest thing people are skeptical about, in my opinion, is that how invested are you in solving this problem? So what I mean by that is, like, are you just a marketer who's like found a need that, teenagers have, pimple problems and they have self-esteem issues, so I'm going to make products and just sell it to that group? They don't really care about that. They want to know that you have looked at every single type
Yeah.
of pimple, and you really care about solving this problem. So again, this is my style of copywriting, so this is what I kind of focus on. I'm not saying I think different copywriters would focus on different things, but if the question is like, can you give me an example of the skepticism that a buyer might have? I can tell you for a fact they have skepticism about your price for sure. They have skepticism about your credentials for sure. They have skepticism even about the reviews on your product page. They have skepticism about the quality of your ingredients. Like, they have skepticism about all of those things. And what you need to do is you have to really ask yourself, looking at the returns that you get in your product, looking at the conversations you have with your customers, what is the thing that they are most skeptical about? That, of course, is unique to you. So maybe
I
Lorenzo.
want to say I want to say one last thing, which is it doesn't matter how big you are, how big of an e-commerce you have. It could be like $10,000 in revenue a month, or $10,000 a day in revenue, or $10,000 an hour in revenue. Doesn't matter. I guarantee you have a bunch of users that are skeptical about your
Correct.
product. So even like Apple has users that when they go on the iPhone product page, they're skeptical about something.
Correct.
So
100%.
don't say, I work for a company that has, $2 billion in revenue, like Dyson. People are not skeptical about me because I got a big brand. Hell no. There are a bunch of people that are skeptical about your brand as well.
That's exactly right. And my view is that brands have two choices. And let's just think about this from an economic perspective. And I'm glad you brought this up. My guess is that 16% of people that are on your website, on your product page, are skeptical, and they're not buying because they're skeptical. 4% of people are buying. And then everyone else, the 80%, they're never fucking going to buy. So just forget that group. So where the game we're playing is, do we want to bother trying to convince the 16%? And that's a valid question. Now you have only two paths. One path is, I want to increase the size of my pie by increasing my ad spend so I can get more people. And I know 4% of those people are going to be buyers. If that's the game you want to play, that's a fine game to play. I think it depends on two things. It depends on the cost of acquisition. If your cost of acquisition is super cheap, if you have enough brand reputation where you can keep on getting, like Dyson gets new customers every day because of the work Dyson did over the last 30 years. And they could turn off their advertising, and I guarantee you they'll still get like 20% of their sales, 30% of the sales. So, and a certain proportion of those people will buy, and that's one game to play. But the other game to play is to say, wait a minute, I have spent all this money getting these people to my website, and 16% of them were engaged. They went through 10 of my product images, they read 10 of my reviews, they spent 10 minutes on the page. I need to understand, I think it's cheaper to persuade 10% of those people than to spend more money to get more people at the top of the funnel. So for me, economically, it just makes sense. And it actually improves all of your metrics because it allows your cost of acquisition to go down, because now you are more effectively converting the audience that is, they were so close to converting anyway. The other thing is that if your cost of acquisition goes down, now that changes the economics of how you do advertising. And for a lot of brands, their ROAS is like the limiting factor for them. So I think it just changes everything. And for me, therefore, it makes sense to focus on this group.
Yeah, the analogy I want to give is actually this one, Rishi. Imagine that there's a marathon that just ended, right? Are you more like, if you could choose between selling water, right, to somebody that just finished a fucking marathon or Ultraman, whatever that is called, or to some random dude in the street?
That's great. And by the way, no, you're such a beautiful idea. I wish we'll do another episode on analogies, guys. I just love it. I think what Lorenzo said, it just really brought this idea home to me. So I don't want to keep this episode running too long. We've talked about this idea of healthy skeptics. I've already bet the whole house, mortgaged the whole house on this idea. So I'm on this journey. Nothing is going to change me. But I'm curious to know from your perspective, what about my explanation about healthy skeptics to you is surprising to you in a positive way? You're like, oh, I never thought about this. What aspect of it is confusing to you? If you drop me comments, again, I would love to kind of really improve my communication of this. It's like, I know what the truth is. I just need to figure out the right language of communicating it in a way that resonates with people. So I would love your feedback. And of course, if you totally agree with it, and if you totally think it's the right thing to focus on, give us a thumbs up. And what's even more important than that is, if you can think about one person in your network who is working on marketing, who may not have been focusing on this beautiful, juicy group of the healthy skeptics, share this video with them. I think they'll really appreciate it. Take care, guys. Thanks for your time.
Bye.